So G20, ladies and gentlemen, has not just been a huge game changer. It has also showed us that if you have a big idea, you dream big, and you believe in your idea, everything is possible. Something that the Prime Minister, the entire team of our bureaucrats, our Sherpa, all our ministers have been able to achieve. Now, one very fascinating thing that a lot of you viewers have been talking about, had wanted to put our spotlight on, is the economic corridor. Now, this India, along with the US and several major economies, remember, has announced an ambitious India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Now, what would this do? The Prime Minister has emphasized on the respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of all the nations while he promotes this connectivity initiative. Now, what is this new economic corridor all about, and why is this, ladies and gentlemen, such a big deal? Many say that this is an alternative to China's Belt and Road Initiative that was jointly announced by the leaders of the US, of India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, France, Germany, Italy, and the European Union on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Now, this corridor comprises an eastern corridor that connects India to the Gulf region. Then there is going to be another corridor that essentially connects the Gulf region to Europe. So that is how it will move. Now, this corridor will include a railway and a ship rail transit network and road transport routes. Why is this different? Because we just were hearing from the Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav also, who said that this is not just going to boost connectivity, this is going to help millions of Indians who stay in the Gulf and other regions. This is going to increase trade because you will also have a freight corridor. He said this is going to boost railways in multiple times as far as the country is concerned, the domestic industry is concerned, and also otherwise. But why is this also an answer to China's BRI that has been mired in a lot of controversies? There is a lot of debt that it talks about. And the idea, many say, is also to have that counterbalance of a China that continues to be expansionist and a China that continues to ensure that all these economies, especially the countries that have supported the BRI, will be in debts. So is that going to be a game changer? Many say yes. And we also have a panel of guests that joins us to talk about that. And let's put them out on our screens for you. We have Ambassador Deepak Woraji, who's a former diplomat, joining us on the broadcast, and he's not in our studios. He's in New York, sir. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Spencer Krishle is a Democratic analyst. He's live from Washington. And Prasoon Sharma is an Asia Global Fellow at the Hong Kong University. He's also a China and a foreign policy expert. And gentlemen, with your permission, I want to begin with Prasoon because he's also a China and a foreign policy expert by asking him, should China be a part of this huge initiative that has been launched at the G20, Prasoon? What do you think? What could China and Pakistan be thinking tonight?
I think I'll start by saying about India, because everybody is talking about India and I'm eager to talk about India as an Indian seeing the glorified G20. So I would say this G21 has subverted the paradigm of negative propaganda of several decades about India. People who used to say this is a country of Balgadi, their 20 most powerful leaders has come to Bharat and seen that this is a country who has made Chandrayaan in half a budget of Hollywood movie and also launched that, and now ISRO is working for sending to other planets also. People who used to say this is a country of small shopkeepers, they have experienced that we have 100 unicorns and we are the third largest startup ecosystem. And India has given a new engagement group to G21, that is S20. People who used to say that this is a poor country, they have realized that this country has given free food grains to 80 crores of the citizens during COVID. People who used to say they need to learn technology, like we are doing 40% of global financial transactions. So this is what people have experienced, especially the 20 most powerful leaders of the globe. And this is New Bharat, Sashakt, Samarth, and Assertive Bharat. not only we have shaped the future, we have also shaped the history also, because since inceptions of G20, this is the first expansion since 1919. We have included African Union, and we have given certain new aspect also, like including Startup 20. We have our Prime Minister have given a G20 satellite mission proposal also. And on the ground, as you mentioned about the connectivity issues, a big initiative, I would say that under this multilateral forum, there is a small grouping also, I2U2, that is India, Israel, and USA, UAE. Under that deliberations, I think around 2 billion of investment will be done by UAE. It's an informal informations about the smart projects in India, and also like related to green energy. So this will connect the increasing made in India, capacity, which is of one important aspect is of our defense export. Our defense export has rised by 23 times. It's 16,000 crore. And with the new technology which US is giving, it can multifold to around 50 to 60 times. So this is what we are giving to domestic manufacturing and strategic initiatives and to the world. Now talking about joining China, I think India is open. I think it's more about multilateralisms and respecting sovereignty and interest of all the stakeholders. It's not like unilateral thing which has been proposed by certain other stakeholders. So I think this is a new India which is setting up the narrative not only for the domestic growth but also the global growth and geoeconomics. They have, like, I think after this successful declarations, I would say we have mastered the geoeconomics thanks to our diplomats, the team who has worked constantly on this, and support of all these G21 nations who have given support to Indian team as well as leadership.
Oh, absolutely. And one must underscore, the Italian Prime Minister apparently has told the Chinese Premier Spencer that it would be withdrawing from Xi's Belt and Road Initiative. So is this the reason, Spencer, why perhaps Xi Jinping has stayed away from this G20 that is now G21? What do you think?
Well, of course, China is famously opaque, so we can only speculate. But I think whatever the actual reason is for Mr. Xi staying away, I think one of the larger lessons here is the price of autocratic rule and relying on fanning nationalist resentment and anger to sustain your power base, which I think Mr. Xi has been doing, unlike his more recent predecessors in China, who had been presiding over history's most remarkable rise from poverty, perhaps now rivaled by India's, and I think eclipsed by India's, and seem to be squandering that in the name of flexing power on the world stage. And similarly with Vladimir Putin, I think both are finding that that doesn't work out as well as you might hope. First of all, through autocratic rule, you're essentially reducing the potential intelligence of your government operations to one brain, the brain of the maximum leader, and everybody's supposed to put all their faith in this one person. Whereas with a more open democratic form of government, of course, you can draw on the intelligence, the freely operating intelligence, including people who disagree with you, of the very best people you can find in your country. And similarly, the wages of aggression are isolation. So the Belt and Road Initiative started off very promisingly for China, and now perhaps not doing so well. And I think that if the G20 countries, now perhaps the G21 countries, with the very welcome addition of the African Union, can show the alternative of a true partnership among democratic countries or countries striving to become more democratic, who actually respect shared democratic values and who will be honest deal makers with each other, whose word can be trusted, something, a privilege that Vladimir Putin has certainly squandered long ago. They can show that it's just a far better alternative, not just from the point of view of the moral values involved, but just the sheer pragmatic interest of being able to do business with people who aren't going to betray you at the first opportunity, or even perhaps cross your borders when it suits them.
I must say that's an interesting take, Ambassador Deepak Voraji. And a lot of our viewers are asking that, should this India, Middle East, Europe corridor take shape as is being discussed, as the big dream is? Aren't there hard questions, defining choices also for Turkey right now? Because, I think we must factor that also in mind. How would Turkey respond to this?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Always a privilege to be on your insanely popular channel. You are one of our best anchors. And then you have two other experts whose knowledge is far superior to mine. So I'll just try, if you permit, contribute or add a little bit, whatever I can, to what they have said. By the way, I'm in New York at the moment. It's 10:50 in the morning. Temperature is 21 degrees Celsius and fall is just starting. You see that beautiful, beautiful virtual image behind me. That's what I love about New York. Things change according to the seasons. Nothing ever changes in China. As far as the BRI, the bill can drop, belt and whatever was concerned, it was a megalomaniac, demented idea. He unleashed his virus in 2021, another demented idea that effectively killed the BRI. Why? 150 or so countries joined the BRI. The virus killed their economies. How do they repay the Chinese loans? Now, you've noticed something, that ping pong or ding dong, whatever the fellow's name is, he doesn't talk about the BRI anymore. And when we heard them speak about it again was when this economic corridor from India through the Middle East to Europe was being talked about. Ma'am, there was a time, you might recall, I'm 72 years young, 50 years in diplomacy and practicing. In the mid 15th century, I think 1453 or so, Istanbul, then called Constantinople, fell to the Turks. So the overland route from Europe to Asia was punctured. And hence, two characters, there was one fellow called Christopher Columbus, the fool came looking for us, discovered America, and the other was Vasco da Gama. He finally found India. So a sea route to India was discovered. And now we are recreating the land route from India to Europe. Ma'am, significant three civilizations, the Hindu civilization of India, the route traverses the Islamic civilization of the Middle East, goes to the Christian civilization of Europe. This is really what is very significant. You described something as a game changer. What game? The only game in town was China's attempts to create a world with Chinese characteristics. That kind of stupidity still seems to pervade thinking by the Communist Party of China. Ma'am, the recently concluded G21 summit in India, I'm writing a book, and it's called 48 Hours That Rebooted Our Planet. It's all about how the New Delhi summit, not just it swept away the cobwebs of the past, but it showed a bright new path to the future. And this is what the Prime Minister talked about in his opening remarks. He talked about the trust deficit. And when he concluded, he said, I was impressed with the atmosphere of optimism. Only India can pull that off. New Delhi is the capital of the world. Sorry, my colleague from America. I love Washington, D.C., but I believe at this time, all eyes are on New Delhi. One of your media people, ma'am, please listen to this. One of your American newspapers, which I get, I've been monitoring, has talked of New Delhi being the consensus king. It's also the nabob of negotiations, that the consensus only the Indians could achieve. They talked of India's moment, India has arrived. They talked of India showcases the right, and it said, well done, India. Now, these are the headlines that I'm seeing, whereas your mainstream, the big channels are all obsessed with what's happening to Donald Trump or what's happening to Hunter Biden or to President, is he going to be impeached and so on. But those who have an interest in international affairs are applauding what was achieved in G20. So, ma'am, I would not see this economic corridor as a response solely to the Chinese rubbish. I'm a development economist, and I do regression analysis. Now, I'm selling something from India. I'm taking it to, let's say, Bhutan. I will sell 4 handkerchiefs, but I have to carry them, transport them to Bhutan. With this road and rail link, ma'am, my transportation cost based on our analysis goes down by 40%. So things become cheaper. I may not be able to sell more, but I'll be able to be more cost effective. This is the main impact of this corridor that is being built. And I'm delighted that the so-called Islamic countries, which are now modernizing and abandoning the rabbit form of Islam, they have also joined it because they are seeing the benefit that comes to them. My American colleague and Prasoon Saab, whose intellect is far superior to mine, will know that why is the economy so important. You remember, sir, there used to be one of your presidents, a character called Billu Bhai Clinton or Bill Clinton. When asked why people should vote for him and not for George Bush, the incumbent, his catchphrase was, "It's the economy, stupid." So I believe that it is the economy that is going to drive this. And truly, truly, it's something from which everybody will benefit. All those in their right minds would want to be part of this initiative. It is destined to succeed.
You know, and now, Ambassador Saab, there's hardly anything left for me to ask or say, but I think our viewers have really enjoyed this conversation with all three of you gentlemen, and I just have limited time to ask one question each with all of you. So quickly, Prasoon, to you. You know, Ambassador Saab has quickly outlined for us why could this just change the scenario, and why this is also that new step by Bharat that the world today is in awe of. You know, I haven't seen many reactions from Beijing yet. Have you been able to capture, and would you be able to tell us how has Beijing reacted to what we've heard so far in G20 and particularly this corridor? Prasoon.
I think overall the media here is also positive about G20, and they are like congratulating all the countries, and they are boosting inclusion of African Union. So there is a positive coverage till now on the TV, what I am seeing. Still, we have to wait and watch about the nitty-gritties, about whether it's a connectivity project or other announcements. But overall, they are portraying, and there is a positivity, and they are also mentioning that China has supported this consensus, especially for the developing world's better future. So that's why when I began, I said everybody is talking about India here. So let me give a chance that I should also talk about India first. So luckily, there are positive sentiments for this particular event, as well as the leadership of India in G20.
Okay. Spencer, you want to push that point a little further, because yes, it is about the economy stupid, like Ambassador Saab just told us, but it's also about a lot of geopolitics and a lot of things changing. Spencer.
Very much so. And I often emphasize that we don't have to choose between values and pragmatic self-interest, because I think that especially post-World War II history has shown us again and again and again, it's just good business to operate on the basis of trust, mutual respect, partnership, and democratic values. Now, all of us have fallen short of that ideal situation, including the United States. And, I think it's both one of the black marks against the American record, the times that we have fallen short of those ideals. But one of the great things about the United States is that we're capable of acknowledging when we've made mistakes and try to correct that behavior going forward. I think also that's the hope of the world, is that the most powerful countries in the world, including the colonial powers, have been abandoning their empires since the end of World War II. Again, a far from perfect process. But this represents an opportunity to emerge into the kind of liberal, democratic, prosperous, and peaceful world order that everybody's been hoping for, that the United Nations is supposed to be supporting, and these other international groups are supposed to be supporting. So I think we all face a tremendous opportunity to have a much better version 2, so to speak, of the liberal democratic world order here, and show that it just simply works much better than these, violent, aggressive, extremely nationalistic visions of pure self-interested power that we're seeing coming out of Russia and increasingly China, unfortunately, after China showed so much promise for so long. I hope they can get back on track.
Okay, would they? We do not know, because with China, like all of you said, gentlemen, a lot of things are opaque. But Ambassador Saab, I'll give you the final word. And what, according to you, perhaps has been the biggest highlight, the biggest takeaway from G20? Many say that there are so many that it's difficult to put your finger on. But because, of all your experience, all your insight, what, according to you, you believe has been the most important game changer?
Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in his opening remarks that there was a trust deficit in the world. In his closing remarks, he said there is a sense of optimism and trust. I believe that was the biggest takeaway from the summit that was held in Delhi. Ma'am, I'm privileged to be special advisor to 3 governments in Africa. I'm in touch. One of their former foreign ministers, may I please read out the message he has sent me after the African Union of 54 countries was admitted? He said, Mr. Ambassador, we wish to thank India for giving Africa its rightful place. We love you, India. India is our choice. And I have responded to him as I always do. Yeah, he had right choice, baby. You made the right choice. India will never let you down. I mean what I say what I mean. And I'm convinced as an Indian ambassador that we will redeem our pledge to the world.
Okay, I think that's the best note that we can end this conversation on. And Ambassador Saab, as always, you leave nothing for us to, say, even as a footnote. But what a pleasure this has been. Ambassador Deepak Voraji, Spencer, Prasoon Sharma, thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you for your time. We quickly head into a break. Back on the other side with lots